new babe. So what's good, TMG fam? It's your boy L, and I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Salute. Now listen, man. Shout outs for y'all for letting me invade your Saturday, but we about to get into one, man. You already know when it's that chapter, you know it's that time for us to get into it, all right? So all I'm gonna say, man, is this is titled The Disturbing Coleman Family Murders. Not sure. I didn't even want to look at the description, bro, because I have confidence in this. I just know it's gonna be something crazy. All right, so I'm hyped for it, man. All I ask is at the end of the video, let's run the lights up, man. Let's try to hit 20,000. Let's go.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, we're going to talk about a guy named Chris Coleman. So who is he? Well, he was a bodyguard for an apparently world-famous, though I'd never heard of her, Christian televangelist. Oh, that's why. Named Joyce Meyer. It was a big old job, and he was...
I've seen her on like some of those early morning, before you go to work channels. You be trying to get to either sports. When I be trying to get to Sports Center, you may pass by this channel, or you're trying to see the news real quick before you leave in the morning for work. I've seen her before around those Creflo Dollar time of the mornings.
Was paid quite handsomely for it. So why are we talking about just a regular old bodyguard? Oh, he killed his whole family. That's why. Because he was having an affair. Sound familiar? Alrighty, let's giddy up. So who was Chris Coleman? Well, old Chris was born in 1977. Born into church teaching, church giving. His parents were both pastors, so quite religious from the very get-go. As I said, he would later go on to be a bodyguard for world-famous, apparently, Christian televangelist named Joyce Meyer. She was a family friend. He knew her from a very young age, so there you go, I guess.
Whatever we're doing is not nearly as important as what God wants us to do. Amen?
Alright, Chris would go on to join the Marines straight out of high school, where he worked with canines. And that's where he would meet his future wife, Sherry Weiss, who was in the Air Force at the time. Chris and Sherry would get married in 1997. And 2 kids later, Garrett and Gavin, life was good living in Columbia, Illinois. After leaving the service, Chris would get a sweet $100,000 a year job working as a bodyguard for Joyce Meyer and travel the world. And so this is where the trouble starts for poor old Chris. You see, they didn't like what Chris was doing, or more specifically, they didn't like the job his boss was doing, spreading the word. You know, God and all what they were all about. And Chris had made a dangerous enemy somewhere out there in the non-religious world. On November 14th, 2008, Chris started receiving nasty, hate-filled, vitriolic messages threatening harm against him and his family. Oh geez, that's no good. The emails were from destroychris@gmail.com. At least they were subtle. Your family is done. I'm sure this will make it to someone in the company. If you jackasses are like any other company, this will be someone's account. Pass this on to Chris. Tell Joyce to stop preaching the bullshit, or Chris's family will die. If I can't get to Joyce, then I will get to someone close to her. And if I can't get to him, I will kill his wife and kids.
Are y'all thinking what I'm thinking? Is Chris sending himself emails? This don't even make sense. Rarely if somebody's, you know, in the spot like that evangelist lady is, who's going after the bodyguard and the bodyguard's family? Who knows them like that? Unless it's somebody personally. I'm already thrown off in the beginning. Y'all see me. My mind is trying to turn to see where we going with this. I already be trying to find out.
I know you got all my... okay, it's hard to kind of read this email as the first letter of some words has been blocked out, but... okay, here, I'll give it a go. Yucking email. You think I'm full of shit? Just wait. I will shoot their asses with my 40. Kill them all. I am so sick of bitches like her taking everyone's cash so she can fly her jet and pamper her white ass. Yuck you all. Tell Chris I will kill them. During the Houston conference, I will kill them all as they sleep. Oof. We got one of those psychopaths on our hands, it would seem. Eventually, one of those sick messages would arrive in the post box outside Chris's house in Columbia, Illinois, and shit got real, my friends. Chris, he then filed a police report. He was being stalked by some sicko. And the last message he would receive was on April 27th. And the letter ended with, "This is my last warning. Your worst nightmare is about to happen." Now, luckily, a detective sergeant just happened to live right across the road, so he set up a camera in his house, watching Chris's house to see if he could see anybody snooping around. And the Columbia PD, they set up regular patrols to patrol the area. However, they didn't catch anybody. They didn't see anybody that looked like a weirdo. That gosh darn sick son of a bee, still on the loose. With Chris and his boys playing catch in the front yard, no less. So, this takes us up to about the 5th of May, 2009. At 6:43 a.m. that morning, Chris, he was pumping iron in the gym, and he called the detective who lived across the street, the one who had set up the camera. And he was like, "Listen, bro, I'm, working the guns in the gym, but I can't get through to my wife, who's at home. And, usually her and the kids, they'd be up at this stage getting ready. So would you mind just popping over, just check, everything's cool? Do you mind?" So this detective who lived across the road popped over at almost 7 a.m. to do a welfare check on the Coleman house, while Chris, he was on his way home from the gym. And he found the Coleman family dead. 31-year-old Sherry, 11-year-old Garrett, and 9-year-old Gavin had all been murdered.
This should be an open shut case. You went to the gym or somewhere to pump iron or lift weights or whatever you want to say, and you didn't. No, that's not a normal person's move. That's not, bro. What were you thinking? This should be an open shut case. I swear it should be.
In their beds, strangled. Sherry Coleman looked like she had fought her killer. She had a black eye, and spray painted all over the house were messages. This could only be one person. The same person who had written those disgusting emails. Wonder who it was.
Chris.
Chris arrived back at his home seconds before the full cavalcade of police. And when he got there, he was told, "Your family's dead." Chris now, he didn't ask why, he didn't ask how, he didn't even try and burst past the first officers who were there to see his family. He simply just walked out into his front yard and put his head in his hands. Obviously in shock, right? So then he was taken away in an ambulance. Now, while he was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, someone noticed on Chris's arm some scratches. So the guy was like, "Hey, what's the deal with those scratches on your arm? What happened there?" And Chris, he was then like, "Oh, these scratches." Oh, he just started then punching the gurney, in the ambulance, and then was like, "Oh, these scratches, yeah, it happened. I just punched. You saw me just punch the gurney. That's how that happened. Yeah, they weren't there before I punched the gurney. They were there after." So right off the bat, this became a huge investigation. Police tore the place apart carefully to find any evidence at all.
In the meantime, we want to get to some new information out of the state of Illinois as authorities are hunting.
Again, like I said, this should be an open, shut case. I called it from the beginning. Those emails and letters had to come from him, man. You see it. Open, shut case. Scratch, you gonna punch the gurney and say, "Oh, it just happened after we just asked you, then you punch the gurney." How stupid do you think we are, fam? Oh my.
For a killer of a mother there and her 2 young boys. The husband of this group, Christopher Coleman, told police he was at home on Monday night. He usually works at night for a ministry, and then he went to the gym early the next morning. And from there, he called police and asked them to check on his family because when he called, nobody had answered at his home. Right now, we're waiting for autopsy results on the mother you see there, Sherry Coleman, and her 2 boys. They were found, neighbors say they were strangled, found inside their home that morning.
Who would have done that? Most people would have been like, I ain't trying to wake my neighbor up to go. I'll go, man, this is a workout. This is nothing. I ain't hearing from my family. That's more important. Let me run home and see, make sure everything is good. If so, I can pick my workup back out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't do, that's not normal.
Nicholas Pister is a reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. He is on the phone with us now, and they've been breaking all sorts of details on this story. Nicholas, lay out this timeline for me, if you will, about what Coleman is telling authorities about where he was exactly on this morning.
Police have not laid out an exact timeline, but what we do know from high-ranking police sources is that Coleman said that he left the house about 5:30, and that's when he went to a St. Louis County gym. And then he had phoned police sometime before 7 o'clock asking them to check on the well-being of his family. And then the police then arrived, found the bodies. Coleman arrived shortly after police did.
And they have been questioning him continually? Have they given any indication if they think potentially he could be involved?
They questioned him for quite some time on Monday. He finally left after he had requested an attorney.
An indication to you at all whether they have a suspect at this point?
They continue to say there are no suspects, but they are following leads.
Nicholas, are they telling you anything about a motive? I know that this family, police have said they were enduring some threats in the neighborhood and to themselves in the past. There also was this message on the wall inside the house?
Yes, there was a message on the wall that had said, I told you this would happen. But police have sort of not really been real upfront with the threats that have been made in the past.
Now remember that camera that was set up right across the road by the detective?
Yeah.
You know, to watch the house for any nefarious goings on? Yeah. See, Chris had said, obviously, that when he left the house that morning, everything was grand. See, the camera showed Chris leaving his home at 5:43 a.m., exactly an hour before Chris called the detective who lived across the road to check on his house. But police were pretty quickly able to tell the victims had been murdered hours before Chris left the house. They got in there and the bodies were like stiff, cold. You know, seemed like they'd been dead for a while. Definitely not after Chris left the house, which would then be less than an hour before they were discovered. So the police brought this up to Chris when they spoke to him that very day.
And you know what, for right now, I'm just going to have a seat there. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but here's another water if you need it. Okay. I'll tell you what, from the beginning, let's just start off from when you got up this morning until the time you pull up at the house. Just kind of walk me through that first, and then we'll go through and kind of explain, talk about some different things as far as the emails you've been getting, okay?
Well, I set my alarm clock for 5:30, and I used my phone for my alarm clock. And got up at 5:30, went in the bathroom, put these clothes here I got on, and went to the bathroom and basically got in the truck and left. And drove off. I got to I don't know where I was at, but called Sherry to wake her up, get her going, and she didn't answer, of course. And so I went home to the gym, to Gold's Gym, over by Ronnie's Plaza in South County, and started working out. I text her at some point. I might even called her again. I don't remember. I could probably look at my phone if you want me to.
Do you guys have a home phone number too, or just cell phones?
No, we just use cell phones. So I text her, and then she still didn't respond, and probably now it had to have been well after 6 o'clock sometime when I texted her or called her. I'm sure it's still on her phone what time it was.
Okay.
And She didn't respond. That's not like her because the kids should have been up and stuff, or getting up and going by then, I believe. And so I called her again. Called her again on the way back, or when I was getting ready to leave, and she didn't respond again. And I started getting a little concerned because it's not like her not to answer the phone. Sometimes she won't answer if she's in the shower, but she always calls me back right away. And so she didn't do that at all. And so that's when I called you.
You were getting some of those emails sent to your work email address, right? Do you still have those on your computer?
I could look.
Okay.
They might be on the server. Even.
Okay.
I doubt if they're on the computer because it deletes them after so
Kind
long.
of purges them out, type of
But
thing.
I would think they'd be on the server.
And how many threats like that? I mean, up until November, have you ever gotten threats like that before?
No, people have been upset with me, but I haven't gotten anything. I mean, I've had people yell at me and cuss at me and everything else, but, you know, and escort them off the property and all that stuff.
Upset with you or the evangelist? Now, in the letters, he was like, they were upset with her for preaching that gospel and doing different things and you know what I mean, spending large amounts of money or scamming money. It was about her, but since you were close to her, I thought they came after you or something like that. They hated you.
I just been there this morning. Leave.
What we're gonna do, you know, Chris, we're gonna get past that. Okay, we're gonna work this out and get through it. All right. But what we need, the best thing you can do for us is help us. Try to fill. You're doing a great job, man. But the best thing we can do is work together and try to figure all this out. Okay. All right. And you're doing that. I mean, I'm not.
We've got. When you left the house this morning, was your wife alive?
Oh, yeah.
What would you say if I told you that I don't think she was?
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I think she was. I mean, she was.
Okay.
She was laying right beside me.
And I'm not doubting that. I'm not doubting that you were there, and I'm not doubting that you care. But I am doubting that she was alive when you left this morning. Physically, what we have are different ways to tell how long a person's been deceased. That was done. And what do you think that showed?
I don't know. I guess the time frame when I was gone. I mean,
No, you guys wrong. Chris, we need to get this resolved. Okay? That you can't argue with physical evidence.
I'm not trying to argue with it.
All right.
I don't.
What I'm telling you is there is no other explanation. There's no other reason that the information we have would support what you're telling us. That it can't. It can't. You've told us a story and we've gone over it numerous times.
Right.
You know what? We walk out to Justin, maybe we missed this. Let's go in and talk to him about this and just make sure that we're not missing something. Let's give him every opportunity to tell us exactly what happened and maybe we're missing something. So that's why we go out and we come back in and we go out and we come back in. I did have to use the restroom, that was legitimate, but we go out and we come back in. And we felt very comfortable that we were giving you every opportunity to tell us something that was going to contradict the information that we had. All right, we've got this information, you're saying it, and we're giving you opportunity to give us something contrary to what you told us before, so that, okay, yeah, all right, that would make sense. That hasn't happened.
I'm just telling you
That
what
hasn't
happened.
happened. Listen, man, she wasn't alive when you left.
She was alive. She was laying right beside
Listen
me.
to me. We can go back and forth with this all day long, but the physical evidence doesn't lie. She was not alive when you left this morning. The children weren't alive when you left this morning.
Yes, they were.
No, come on, Chris.
They were.
We gotta get over this. Now there's reasons, and that's the point we're at. I want to hear the reasons. Now is when we need to find out what happened, man. It's so important. You're at a great point to be able to help us to try to figure this out. We already know what happened. We need to know why it happened.
I don't know what to tell you.
Listen, no, you do know what to tell us.
No, I don't.
Come on, Chris. She was not alive when you left. The children were not alive when you left. You know that's true, and I know that's true.
No, it just...
We need to clear this up now. We need to clear it up now. Did something happen? What?
He about to break, it feel like. He about to break, it feel like. Or he need to break, bro. Tell him, please. I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat waiting on him to be like, yo, your neighbor put up a camera. Tell him that, please.
Happened.
Nothing happened.
What was going on in your life, Chris? Because I can't buy what you're saying. The physical evidence does not lie, Chris. It does not. She was not alive when you left, period. The physical evidence does not lie, man.
What do you want me to tell you?
The truth.
I'm telling you the truth.
How did we get to this point? That's what I need to know. I need to know how and why we got to the point we're at right now. We both know you're not telling me the truth. We both know that. I've done this a long time. I'm looking in your eyes, and I can tell you you're not being truthful, Chris. We need an answer. There are answers. As bad as this sounds, as bad as this looks, or you may think it looks, we understand, and I've talked to many people who have given me reasons, and it's like, you know what? Okay, all right, I can understand how somebody might have been feeling that at that time, and maybe they acted on it, and they shouldn't have, and they regret it. There's no way to turn clocks back. You can't turn clocks back. You understand that, don't you? You can't turn the clock back. The only thing we can do is go forward from this point, and we need to know what and why it happened. Come on, Chris, help me out with this.
I'm telling you, I've already told you. I told everybody. I told the guy in the ambulance. I told you. I told him.
The more we go back like this, the more it makes me think that there maybe isn't a good explanation for it. I mean, we need to know what happened. We can't keep going on this. It didn't, she was alive when I left. We know that's not true, and there's nothing we can do about changing that. If we know she wasn't alive when you left this morning, there's got to be an explanation. Now is the time to tell us. Now is the time to get this out of you.
I don't know what else to tell you.
Yes, you do. Yes,
No.
you do. You have to tell me the truth, Chris.
I am telling you the truth.
Were you involved in her death?
No.
Okay. Was someone you know involved in her death?
I don't know.
Did you know? Did you talk to anybody about arranging her death?
No, absolutely not.
I thought he was gonna crack there, bro. That cop was doing a good job. I cannot lie. He was on him, and he was pressuring him, and he was applying force. He was pressuring him, but he didn't crack. I thought he was gonna crack, bro. So I was hoping they brought out the information about the camera. That probably would have pushed him over the edge and made him crack. But they're holding that for some reason.
They also thought it was strange that Chris, he was the target of all this, hate, all these hate messages. Yet the killer just so happened to strike when Chris had left. What are the odds he would miss his target, by just a fraction of an hour? What are the odds of that? Bad timing on his part, though he did say, quote, "Kill them all as they sleep." So, and speaking of those, those emails, those hate-filled emails, police were very quickly able to trace the IP address of destroychris@gmail.com. So, would they finally find the lair of this killer? It was Chris's house. The emails were sent from Chris's house, because of course they were.
We called it, y'all. We called it. I knew those. It just, come on, man. Come on. We don't even need a badge, and we figured that out, bro. We ain't detectives. We figured this out. It was just too obvious, Chris. Too obvious, bro.
What else did they find, I wonder? Well, examining Sherry's phone, didn't she so happen to text a friend that Chris wanted a divorce? Sherry had told her friends that if something happened to her, maybe you should keep an eye on Chris, and that he was accusing her and the kids of ruining his career. Sherry told her friends that she'd yelled during an argument, "Chris, I'm never going to divorce you. I will not leave. What are you gonna do? Kill me?" Very poor choice of words, especially after they found Chris's DNA under Sherry's fingernails. A friend would also tell the police that Chris, even though, he was happy to do the bodyguard work for Joyce, he kind of had like a love-hate relationship with her. He thought it was kind of, he kind of said he thought she was scamming people out of money, that, she was living this really high life, while people who were earning minimum wage were just shipping her all this money for preaching or whatever. Like, he wasn't too cool with how how they made their money. So the stuff he was writing in the email.
Alright, y'all, we're not gonna go down that road. I know what you're thinking. I know that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. Whole nother day. You know what I mean? We just leave that there.
Emails to himself was kind of how he genuinely felt about the whole thing, even though he was quite a religious person himself. And the police also found on Chris's credit card statement that he had purchased a can of spray paint a few months before what happened. Just so happened to be red spray paint, which looks familiar. Man, we're really getting into it now because Chris did a pretty shitty job of trying to hide any evidence, because on Chris's computer they also found a lot of X-rated videos. Chris was the star of those videos. They were filmed in Hawaii, and he was with a woman who was certainly not his wife Sherry. A woman named Tara Linz. Who the heck is Tara? Was Chris having an affair? Yes, he was, and Tara Linz just so happened to be Sherry's best friend from high school in Florida. What a small world. And Chris and Tara happened to be sending each other a lot of nasty stuff. I mean, nasty in a good way unless you're Sherry. He also had this document on his computer with so much information about Tara. Like he was stalking her, which is, it's just really weird if you just want to read through it there. And so it turned out that, well, obviously he was having an affair, but not just that, he had planned to marry Tara. Tara lived in St. Petersburg, Florida. The police down there spoke to her, but, well, other than having an affair with Chris, she genuinely wasn't involved in the murder at all. She had no clue. Tara told the cops that they had started their relationship in November 2008, which, by the by, is the same month those nasty emails started coming in, and that Chris had told Tara he would present divorce papers to Sherry the same day she ended up getting murdered. So I guess he really just didn't want to present the divorce papers. The police also found out he was texting Tara at his family's funeral, telling her how much he missed her. Nice dude. So, we got Chris, who was having an affair, was pretending he was the victim of harassment that he was sending to himself, wanted a divorce from his wife Sherry, because he was having an affair and planned to marry the woman, Tara, who he's having the affair with, but couldn't really go through with the divorce. He also wasn't that happy in his job. I mean, it was well paying, which was great for him, but he had planned to start up his own company, so he kind of just wanted to start a new life. And I guess the best way he thought to go about doing that was, well, so a few days, after the funeral and everything, the police were still investigating to try and find out what actually happened. A neighbor who lived on the same street as Chris, she noticed, there was a little memorial set up outside the Coleman home by friends and relatives and neighbors, in remembrance of the 3 people who were brutally murdered. It was set up there with balloons, footballs, Legos for the little guys. But one day, not long after the funeral, this neighbor saw Chris come out, grab all the stuff, and just fuck it in a bin, and was like, alright, that's that done. I mean, it's obvious Chris did a terrible job of trying to cover his tracks. I can't tell if he was just a dummy or just didn't give a shit. Probably both. So I guess that kind of wraps things up. But not the Chris. No sirree Bob. He did not do anything.
Thank you for coming tonight. As stated, we have some breaking news. We have made an arrest in the homicide of Sherry, Gavin, and Garrett Coleman. We have a Christopher Coleman in custody. He was charged late this evening with 3 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of his wife and his 2 small children. I'd just first like to say that thanks go out to these men and women. This is just a small piece of this investigation. This breaking news, we got some information tonight that secured the warrant.
What changed between last week and this week?
I've been talking about how we were waiting on some forensic evidence, forensic testimony, different things, and it just all started coming together. And for several days now, we've been close. And just tonight, there was some more evidence that came forward, and we were able to solidify just a more solid case. The prosecutor felt, as we did, that at this point there was enough time to charge him with these crimes.
He was arrested on May 19th, after the medical examiner was definitively able to say the family had been killed around 3 a.m., nearly 3 hours before Chris left the house. I guess killing them would have taken a while. Also, graffitiing his own house, well, you know, that can take time. The police waited so long because they wanted to make sure they had their ducks in a row. The trial would begin, and as I said, Chris, not guilty. I have no idea what you're talking about. It wasn't me. I didn't kill my own family. Swear to God. Prosecutors said he murdered his family so he could be with his mistress, Tara. The reason he didn't, I don't know, maybe just get a divorce, was that he was afraid that if he did, he might lose his job. I guess Joyce Meyer may have frowned on the divorce. That's what he thought anyway, that if he got a divorce, you know, he worked for a very religious company, I guess you could say, that he might lose his job because of that. He really should have just gotten his divorce. No need to kill, just get the divorce. It's easier, you probably won't get away with it.
I have to ask you, if the defendant were having an affair, if you had known that at the time, and I understand you've testified that you didn't, what effect would that have had on his employment?
If he would have been having an adulterous affair while he was still married, then it could have definitely affected his job.
Okay. Were there persons over the years that were terminated in situations like that?
We had situations where they were, yes.
And in fact, he was married during the period of time that he worked for you, married to Sherry Coleman, correct?
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask you about the distinction here. What if it was a divorce as opposed to an adulterous affair?
Each situation is handled totally separately based on the circumstances. We have many people that work for us that have been divorced, and a person is not necessarily, do they lose their job because they get a divorce. It wouldn't have been the divorce so much as the immorality.
So, for instance, if a person in your employment, if their spouse filed for divorce against them, and perhaps they had little control over that, you might leave them in your employment? That's a possibility?
Certainly.
Okay.
Like, my leg is literally shaking over here, y'all. My leg is shaking because I have so many questions for her and for y'all in situations like this, but we'll have to find another video for this because I want to know, like, why does, I get the whole thing like that, but wouldn't you try to help somebody out? You know what I mean? If they're going through a divorce, wouldn't you, instead of shun them away, wouldn't you try to, like, help them? That's when a person, I would believe, needs help. You know, they're going through a divorce, a tough time. Maybe you can try counseling. I know churches who do counseling, so they try to step in that way. Firing, losing your job for possible divorce. Now, she said not everybody has this case-by-case situation. You know what I'm saying? So I would just have a ton of questions. I would have a ton of questions.
And on the other end of the spectrum, if a person was having an adulterous affair and then filed for divorce from their spouse to be with that person, then their employment may have been terminated.
May have been, yes.
So they had a...
It's another reason I have to say, like, why not help that person and try to counsel them and show them a better way than just, you're gone. Poof. All right, I'm gonna leave it alone, I promise.
Mountain of evidence against Chris. They said, Chris, what about those emails you were able to track to your own IP address? Did you send them to yourself? Because it sure seems like you did. Chris, in his defense, would say, no, I didn't send them to myself. I got hacked. Yeah, some fucking nerd hacked into my computer and is trying to frame me. What an asshole. So, when the jury went to deliberate on, well, what to do with Chris, it was actually hard for them to get to a unanimous verdict. But then, what happened was this. At trial, a number of images were shown, and a lot of naughty ones too. But all the images had the timestamps blacked out. Then, one of the jurors happened to pick up a photo of Chris and Tara and idly flipped it over. The date on the photo was October 2008. Remember, Tara said their relationship started in November 2008. So, this one little detail ruined Chris's credibility. So, it was pretty straightforward after that. Guilty. And the judge sentenced Chris Coleman to 3 life terms, no parole.
You could hear the crowd cheering as he was taken away. No doubt he could hear those folks, but he never looked up. His head remained down as he was taken back to the county jail until that sentencing phase begins. All around the courthouse, it was the same reaction from folks here. They were cheering one after the other. Some were exchanging high fives, clapping, taking pictures. Now here's how some of the people outside the courthouse reacted just moments after that verdict was read.
I think it is great. I think that justice has been served, and this is a long time coming, 2 years in the making, and I'm so glad that it's over and that Sherry got the verdict that she would want in this.
Justice was served. I was scared being in Waterloo, and we don't have murders like this. I'm really happy today. I really am. For the mother, the children. It's a good day.
Even now, though, in prison, Chris proclaims his innocence. All of his appeals were rejected, and in April 2018, Chris filed a petition for post-conviction relief, which addresses violations of a defendant's constitutional rights. He cited ineffective counsel, denial of due process, and actual innocence, and said that the jury shouldn't have had access to those pictures, the ones with the dates on them, since they weren't in the allowed evidence. In March 2019, a judge granted Chris the chance for a new hearing, but there hasn't been any decisions made on whether or not he'll get a new trial, to date at least. Though I think if he does get a new one, the result will probably be the same. The police actually moved really quickly in this case. It was pretty impressive. The police knew that the family had been murdered before Chris left the home. They knew about the X-rated videos. They knew that Chris was, the destroy emails Chris were coming from himself. And they knew about Tara, all on the very day the murders occurred. And Chris still protests his innocence. His family believe him. But I don't.
Me neither. Me neither. I called it from the beginning as soon as I heard about those phony emails and fake emails, bro. You could tell. It's a feeling, it's a vibe, and we was able to tell that right off the rip, man. Rest in peace to the family. This was a tragic one, bro. Whew. Definitely crazy. He really thought he was gonna get away with that. Who does that? The moves you made weren't logical. They weren't a normal person's move when they don't reach their spouse or their children that answer the phone. I'm not calling the neighbor, even if I got the neighbor's phone number. I'm going to the house to check myself to see what's going on. Everything about what you were saying, just you could poke holes in it. Period. And poke holes in it. So glad they got him. They knew they had him. They was just waiting on everything to pile up on them, and it did. It did. So, crazy story. Nonetheless, shout outs to that chapter, and y'all get at me in the comment section, man. Run the likes up. Till the next reaction, I'm out. Y'all stay solid. Hey.